The Walking Dead was an awesome show until it wasn't. Hey, what's up, nerd fam? This is your boy Gashawn. I want to welcome you to Enter the Nerd. Today we're talking about the Walking Dead series, which ended a couple weeks ago. But I wanted to watch some things like World Beyond, a side series, and some more Fear the Walking Dead, because I know there's some things that I wanted to bring up at the end of this video. But first, we're going to talk about the title series, Walking Dead, the actual OG series that I think we all fell in love with, but started to have problems with, especially when certain characters or actors that were playing those characters left. So here's a bit of my journey with it before even the show. Now, obviously, I used to read the graphic novels, like the comic, whatever, when it comes to Walking Dead by Robert Kirkman, and I loved it. Loved the characters. I actually started reading it back in college. But I started watching the show late. It was already pretty much in its third season by the time I started watching the show. So I had to catch up real fast. I remember I went to Comic-Con and the third season was already out, and I went to go see a panel for it, and I was like, all right, I gotta watch this show now. Gotta watch the show. So I went to go watch the show, and I want to say that The Walking Dead is a perfect example of something that is not a one-to-one example with the graphic novel, but because it kept up with the themes and a lot of the same moments, a lot of the same beats that are happening in the actual book, it was a really good show. They still wanted to pay close attention to what was happening in the book, even if it wasn't exactly the same, and even have certain characters that may not have even been in the book, people like Daryl, who were created just for the show, play roles that still serve the overall narrative of the show without making it seem like it was something super uncharacteristic of what a lot of the people who loved the novel to go, what the hell is this? Which, including myself. So, obviously things like Shane died much earlier in the books, right? When the camp gets attacked by the zombies, I believe he dies there. But they made him last a little longer because obviously John Bernthal is awesome, and having him around longer served the story. It actually served as some of Rick's metamorphosis into what he becomes later on in the show. Michonne is awesome. Carol, also somebody who's supposed to die early on, it becomes somebody truly badass, but doesn't change everything in the entire show. A lot of the key moments still happen, and I thought that was really cool. Even if they changed the characters, they still had their core. I mean, some of them not, because I told you Carol, she changed it to a whole different person, but it was still dope as far as it served the show. Now, my favorite season is episode, pardon me. Maybe not favorite season. Maybe it is. Maybe season 2 might be one of my favorites. But regardless, the last episode when the farm, they lose it, the herd comes all the way from Atlanta, they hear that gunshot and they turn all the way around, and it's right after Shane dies and they got to get the hell out and they all get separated. I thought that was such a great crescendo to everything, right? Where it's he just lost his best friend. Obviously, Carol earlier in the series, she lost her daughter. They thought this farm was someplace they could stay. This is Herschel's, the birthplace of his daughters, and he loses his, Beth's mom. All of that, all the stuff is just happening all at once, and even before and early in the season, and they have to accept it right now or die, right? And I thought that was really good as far as stake, because it was a true culmination of what was going on. And I think that was the last season that Frank Darabont was the showrunner in that. I think it was. And maybe that's why, to me, nothing ever felt like that. Not saying that the prison scene in season, and I could be wrong, maybe he was involved in season 3 too, someone could correct me. But I believe season 3, that prison scene was also good, but season 2, that losing of the farm, that last season finale, it always stays with me. That's my favorite. Now, obviously, there's a lot of good stuff that came afterwards, right? Terminus, all types of cool things, especially what Carol did there. A lot of really dope moments. A lot of crazy stuff, obviously, when it came to walkers. The weirdest thing with walkers, obviously, and me and my friends always laugh at this, is how inconsistent they are, that it's pretty much comical, right? I mean, literally, it's supposed to be there, just regular zombies, and, obviously, they get a little bit, I forgot who said it, somebody was like, oh, well, when they get close to you and they see, they kind of frenzy, so they kind of leap a little bit, right? But I remember in like the third or fourth episode, like when they meet up with Glenn, one of them's like picking up a rock and like trying to like slam it. So you're like, hold on, are they intelligent or not? And it's funny because they moved away from that for a long time, because it's like, if a whole bunch of zombies could do that or turn a doorknob like Morgan's wife, we'd be in trouble if a whole bunch of them could do that. And obviously, kind of a spoiler alert, they've returned back. Well, they've kind of come full circle with that, because there was some variants that appeared at the end of, like, what is it, in season 11, one of these episodes here, and it's kind of tied to the whole World Beyond series, which I'll get to that later. Either way, this series had a ton of strong moments, even though it's comical. Actually, one of the comical moments when it comes to the zombies or the walkers, whatever, I remember there was a scene or episode where Daryl and Beth are like stuck in the house, or no, they're in the house, I think it's a mortician's house, and they had a whole bunch of food in there, and there was a dog outside that he had. So he hears dog make a certain noise, Daryl goes to the front, opens the door, and there's a whole bunch of walkers. So he's like holding the door like briefly, he's like, Beth, get your shit! Right? That's one of the things he says. He opens the door, he starts running, and these zombies are moving. Like, they're not even just stumbling. Like, these dudes are almost skipping after him. And I thought it was so funny, because I've never seen... They were running after him so hard, they were, like, hitting the wall behind him. Like, it was absolutely nuts. They looked like when Captain America is, like, running, he has to, like, bounce off the wall to stop himself. Like, one of the zombies looked just like that when he was running down the stairs. It was hilarious, right? But, like, yeah, the inconsistency is something I used to laugh about when it came to them, because they were either really slow, or sometimes they would actually use their hands, like they did with Dale, like they like ripped him open. But then, like, in other times, they just doing this with their hand and just snapping. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But once again, I can go about this all day. Either way, when it came to the actual zombies, the actual series, I think it was very strong up until around season 7, when Negan came. And obviously, we saw the whole Glenn scene. That was like the height of it. And then it was kind of weak the rest of it. And people still like Negan. Like, he was like the saving grace of that. But then it went up again, I think, towards the end. Like, it was like, up. It started season 7, down, and then back up. Especially with the whole stuff with Dwight. And when everything wasn't so hopeless. And these guys started, I guess, getting back at Negan. Then it became something else. But I think, obviously, the show took a big hit in season 9 when Rick was gone. Because Andrew Lincoln decided to leave, go back with his family. And we get it, right? He spent all this time away from his family for years. So you can't fault him for that. But the show took a huge loss because Rick was kind of the heart and soul of it. And then obviously they built Michonne to be next to him and all that, which obviously is a departure from the comics, but still cool, right? But then she also winds up leaving. Denai Guerrero goes to do something else as well. She's in Wakanda forever. She's like a playwright as well. So both of those characters gone. Now they have a child, RJ, and obviously Judith is older, and Daryl, and all these people have to play these other roles to kind of like stand into that, which is okay. It's just that it's not the same, and you felt it, especially when you would have wished for Rick and Michonne to have been there for the Whisperers. You would have wanted to see how they would have handled the whole Commonwealth situation, right? You're like, what would have happened if they were all there? Oh, hold on. I can't believe I skipped this. Another thing that was weird, before these guys left, because that's stuff that you couldn't control, them killing Carl. I thought that didn't make any sense, because Carl could have actually grown to kind of take Rick's place in that, which is something that kind of happens in the comic, like he grows up. So why they killed him? Don't know. Actor doesn't know. Most people don't know. I think that was a mistake. They should never have done that. But it is what it is. Now, going back towards the end of the show, it was like this weird happily ever after. Barely any stakes. Barely anyone we really cared about died besides Rosita. But I wasn't really overcome with emotion. I'm sorry. I never really cared a lot about her character like that. So, it is what it is. And I didn't really care. The show was over, and I just found myself watching the show just because I had already watched 9 seasons, so I want to just finish it. It took me a while, because after season 7, I stopped watching the show, and it took me a couple years to catch up to season 10. So, it was a little difficult. I'm not sure if anyone else had that experience. But season 11 ended weak. It ended out in a whimper. And before it even ended, to really take out the stakes, they announced that there was going to be spin-offs, which had Carol and Daryl initially, and Negan and Maggie in New York. So you already knew who wasn't going to die, because they already announced that. Even Jeffrey Dean Morgan was like, he didn't like that because of exactly what I just said. Now, Carol's not going to be in the spinoff anymore because I guess relocating to France, where this Daryl show is going to be taking place, she can't relocate over there right now. And now Negan and Maggie are going to be together in New York, and let's see how that works. You know, the dude that killed her husband, which they touch on a lot of times, but it's one thing for them to stay right there and go, okay, I can't really forgive you, but I know you're trying, and stay right there. But for them to be traveling together in New York, I don't understand. And obviously there's supposed to be a return of the old Negan, and apparently something messed up's going to have to happen to him to return back to that old form. And it is what it is, but I'm not really that interested in watching this. I kind of wanted The Walking Dead to be strong and then finish strong, but it didn't really finish strong. And now it's like they know that, and this feels like a cash grab. This does. But, funny enough, not all the spin-offs have I felt that way. Fear the Walking Dead I thought was actually pretty cool, because obviously it actually starts before everything goes to shit, with a different family that's not really based on the comic, with, you know, the Clark family, and I thought Nick was a cool character, and Alicia was a cool character, and Madison, and also, I don't know why I'm forgetting about who her boyfriend was at the time. I think the first 3 seasons I Fear the Walking Dead were super strong, and then the rest just kind of goes to shit. And I feel like maybe it's because these guys probably have a hard time creating like really original stuff, and it was easier for The Walking Dead, like the titles, that, you know, that OG series, because it had something to refer to. But maybe they're not that good at coming up with a whole bunch of original stuff. That's what I'm thinking. Even though, once again, seasons 1 through 3 of Fear the Walking Dead are awesome. As far as World Beyond, it's like if the CW made a zombie show. It's about like teenage angst and people who don't necessarily know how teenagers talk, so they wrote these weird, supposedly poignant things that are just, it gets really annoying. And you barely see any gore. Like, zombies are barely killing anyone in this. Even on World Beyond, it's supposed to be connected to Rick, because apparently Rick is captured by the people, this CRM group, which you see, I'm all over the place, pardon me. At the end of season 11, you see the kind of the whereabouts of Rick, because Rick and Michonne are also going to have a show. So they're going to return at the end of this. And it's like, she's wearing a very Wakanda-esque outfit, not really sure where she got that from. And she's like riding on a horse into a horde of zombies. Okay. So this is going to be very strange. I just almost don't care about any of these things. And that's why the whole World Beyond thing happened, because I guess they're trying to tie it all together and talk about the variants that they found in France, which, like I said, appeared in season 11. I don't know. I'm disappointed, obviously, in the show. I'll always have the book to lean on, and that's going to be cool. And obviously, a lot of the seasons that I did like, but I think that this actually, it went out with a whimper. It did. And a lot of the side shows don't seem to be panning out well. Does that mean that the other shows aren't going to be good? It doesn't mean that, but my interest just isn't very high. What about you? Did you like how The Walking Dead ended? Are you excited for the side shows or the spin-offs, whatever? Let me know. Let's talk about it. Into the Nerd.